Today I'm going to be showing you how to cut faux leather on your Cricut cutting machine, and we're going to be making some key fobs. I'm going to be making them as teacher's gifts, but you can make them for Father's Day, Mother's Day, or whatever occasion you'd like. If you're new here, my name is Nisha. Welcome to Little Craft Nest. And if you're interested in crafting and Cricut tutorials, be sure to hit that subscribe button, press that notification bell so that you don't miss a video. The supplies you're going to need for today are a Cricut cutting machine. It doesn't matter which one you have. We can do this project on all the machines, which is great. We're going to be using our regular fine point blade, so you do not need a deep point blade for this project. I'm going to be using the Cricut faux leather for this project today, but you can use whatever brand you want. Amazon has a pile of different ones that I've also used and they work great as well. We're also going to be playing around with heat transfer vinyl. So you're going to want some vinyl and your Easy Press Mini. If you don't have an Easy Press Mini, that is fine. You can use whatever heat press you have or a home iron. You will need Key Fob hardware, which I have purchased on Amazon, so I'll leave that link down below in the description. And the hardware I got included flat pliers, and they have a bit of a plastic coating on the end so that we don't wreck our Key Fob hardware. So you'll want to make sure you have those in your hardware kit as well. I'll be using E6000 glue, Cricut tools, my brayer, and I think that's it. So let's get started and head over to Cricut Design Space. So the first thing we're going to do is go over to the left-hand side and go to Shapes, and we're going to select the square with the pointed edges. Now we need to resize our square, so let's hit the unlock button at the bottom left corner, go up to size, and we are going to have a width of 9 inches and a height of 1 inch. And this is going to be the size of our key fob. I just want to make this a lighter color just so it's not jumping out at me and so dominant here. And I'm going to zoom in. Now at this point you could go ahead and cut out your faux leather and you'd have this rectangle shape, but we want to make it a little extra special, so we're going to add some text to this keychain. So let's go ahead and add a teacher's name. So on the left hand side, click on text, and I'm going to do Mrs. Taylor. And let's change the font up at the top. I'm going to choose one that I have uploaded to Design Space called Autumn in November, or you can pick whatever font that you want. And we're just going to size this down. Now keep in mind our rectangle here, this isn't the full length of our key fob, as we will be folding this in half. So you don't want your text to go all the way across, and also keep in mind you are going to have hardware overlapping on the ends. So I found the best size to have your text is at 3 inches wide. And then we can go ahead and just place it on the top so you can see what it's going to look like. So our rectangle here, we're going to be cutting that out in faux leather, and we're going to be cutting out our Mrs. Taylor text in heat transfer vinyl. Now let's go ahead and add a little something extra to this keychain as well, and let's include an apple. So we're going to make a little apple keychain to go with our key fob. I'm going to go over to the left hand side and select images, and I'm going to type in apple in the search bar, and then I'm going to filter out the results on the left hand side and click on free. And let's select this first apple here and click at the bottom right and press add to canvas. Now we have our apple here, and right now the height of it is 2 inches tall, and I think that's a perfect height, so we'll go ahead and keep that. Now we want to make our apple double-sided, and we also want to have a little hook on it so we can put it on our keychain. So to do that, we are going to grab a shape again. So let's go grab our square, and I'm going to hit the unlock button, and I'm just going to manually size this down until I get a little rectangle. And I think that's good. The size I'm working with right now, the width is 0.403 and the height is 1.292, but it's not going to stay like that. So I'm going to grab this little circle arrow here, and we're just going to turn it a bit to the right. And I'm going to put this sticking out kind of like the top corner of the apple, and I'm just going to turn it and adjust it just a little. And then when you're happy with where it is, we can go ahead and select both the apple and a rectangle. So I'm just going to drag my mouse over and highlight both of them. And then I'm going to go over to the bottom right hand corner and click on weld. Now what that has done is made our rectangle and our apple one image. Now we're going to select our apple and we're going to go up to the top right and click on duplicate. And I'm going to move this over, and now I'm going to go over to the top and click on the button that says flip, and we're going to flip horizontally. And now we want to attach these two images together. So we're going to drag this one over, and we want both of the tips of our rectangle to be touching each other. So you may need to zoom in to see it a little better. You can even use the arrows on your keyboard just to nudge it over until you're happy with where it is. And I think mine look pretty good, but just to double check, I'm going to highlight both my apples again, and I'm going to go up to the top and go to align, and then I'm going to center them vertically. And now our images should be perfectly parallel on both sides. And they're both still selected, so I'm going to go down to the bottom right again, and we're going to weld these two apples together. And now our little apple keychain is finished. So now the fun part begins, and we can go ahead and hit make it at the top right hand corner. So we have our three mats here. And because we're doing Mrs. Taylor in heat transfer vinyl, we are going to need to mirror that image. So right underneath our mat, click on the mirror button. And our leather pieces can stay the same. You don't need to mirror those images. And then we can press continue. Now we're going to select browse all material at the top right. And then we're going to search for leather. And the setting I'm going to use for the Cricut faux leather that I'm using is the very first setting that says faux leather paper thin. But if you're using another type of leather, you may need to adjust the settings or choose another selection here. Now I have made a key fob before with that really chunky glitter faux leather, and it often can be tough to cut through. So if you're using chunky glitter like I did the other day, you can select the shimmer leather 1mm, and that actually cut it perfectly. However, if you're using a textured shimmery leather with that seems to have like gems on it and stuff, you won't be able to put heat transfer vinyl on top of it. But it does make a very cool key fob. So let's select our faux leather at the top, press done, and let's load our mat up. Now I'm using my standard grip mat for the faux leather that I am using. However, if you're using chunky glitter, something like this, you can see how thick this is. I would use your strong grip mat, and you'll also want to use masking tape. And if you're using something this thick, you're also going to want to flip it over and have your blade cut on this side, because the side is much smoother and you'll get a straighter cut. It is very difficult for the machine to go over these really rough bumps here. It just works so much better if you flip it over. But if you're using something very thin like I have here, it doesn't really matter which way you put it on the mat. Just keep in mind if you're doing text and you have reversed your leather, that you will also need to mirror your image in Design Space. I also find it very helpful to use your brayer right over top. It just helps it stick to the mat a little better. If you find your mat's not that sticky, you can go ahead and grab some masking tape and just put it around the corners. Now when we put this in the machine is going to make it 2 passes through our leather to ensure it cuts all the way through. And I find this setting works beautifully with this leather I am using. Now that cut super fast, and let's see our leather band here. And there it is. Now let's go ahead and cut out our apple. I'm going to do our apple in a different color. So let's do that one in green. And here are our apples. Now, before we go and cut out our heat transfer vinyl, we need to go back onto Design Space and change the settings for our machine. So to change our base material, we have to go over to the top where it says base material set to, and right now it says faux leather. So just click on the faux leather and then we can select iron on. And then we can go ahead and get that cut out. So I'm just going to use a scrap piece of rose gold vinyl I have for the text. Just make sure you put the shiny side facing down when you're working with heat transfer vinyl. So my text is all cut out, and so now I just have to weed it. I actually went back on Design Space and added some more text for the apple. I did best teacher ever because I forgot to do that earlier. So I have 2 pieces of text here that I need to weed out, and then we're going to apply it to our faux leather. Once our designs are weeded out, I'm just going to get my heat safe mat over here and grab my Easy Press Mini, and I'm going to set this just to the lowest heat settings. So we're just going to press the button once. Now if you check out Cricut's heat press guide, I can leave the link down below for that in the description. It recommends warming up your leather first with your Easy Press Mini for about 10 seconds, and then we're going to press it for 30. So I have our name here that we're going to stick on this piece of leather, and then I have Best Teacher Ever that we are going to apply to the apple. Now we want to make sure that we put our name in the right spot. So I'm first going to fold our leather in half, and I'm going to grab a piece of hardware here, and just to see how far it's going to go up. Now I'm not going to press it down yet. We don't want to do that quite yet. It's just to give me a guideline for the measurement. And then you can see exactly where you want to place your name. But first I gotta warm it up, and then I will get this set. Our heat press is ready, has turned green, so I'm going to grab a piece of parchment paper and just put that over top of the faux leather, just to be sure to keep our fabric safe and to keep our heat press safe as well. So let's warm this up for a good 10 seconds. And then once it's warm, let's go ahead and find the placement of our design. Now we don't want our name to be too close to either edge. We want it to be smack in the middle. So I usually just eyeball this until I'm happy with the placement. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to open this back up again and put my parchment paper on top and just gently go over it for about 30 seconds. And then you just let it cool for a few seconds so it's not too hot to touch. Then when you're ready, you can go ahead and peel off the backing. And that looks so great on there. You can tell when it's been pressed on long enough when you can kind of see the pattern of the leather going through your vinyl, and then you know it's on there well. So let's go ahead and also add our text to our apple, and then we're going to put this together. Now to put together our apple keychain, we are going to be using the E6000 glue, and I highly recommend this glue. You do not want to use a glue gun for this because it is going to leave your apple looking very lumpy. But if you don't have this glue, you can also use fabric glue. So we're just going to open up our apple and we're going to apply glue to the apple, but do not apply glue to our little tabs here. So I'm just going to gently put it around, and I want to get as close to the edges as possible. And don't forget the little leaf and the little stem as well. If any glue squeezes out, we can always wipe that off after. And just spread it around a little bit. And then we're just going to line up both sides. And our apple is looking great, and we're going to add that to the keychain in a minute. But we got to do the fun part of putting our key fob together. So we're going to grab our pliers here, and they got the nice plastic ends, and so they are going to protect our hardware from getting any scratches on them. What I like to do is fold our band in half and make sure we line up those edges perfectly. And then I like to just grab a piece of tape. We will be removing this right after, but this is just going to help us keep it in place while we're trying to put our hardware on. So I have a piece of tape here, and I'm just going to tape right here. It's okay if it goes on top of the vinyl. It's not going to stay there long, and it's not going to mess it up or anything. And then I'm going to grab my pliers, and I'm going to stick the hardware right inside of it. Make sure you don't pinch your fingers and just hold that in place. And then we're going to grab our band, make sure it's still lined up. I hope mine is here, because once you do this, you can't really undo it too well. So you want to make sure you do it right the first time. So we're going to get those two ends of the band and we're going to stick them right back and make sure they're flush with the back of the hardware. And then we're simply going to clamp it down. If you need to, you can rest the pliers on the table if you find you have better control that way, and then press down as well. Now, if they're slipping, just open them up again and then get a better grip and then press down. And then we can open it up and we can remove our tape. Now, you may have noticed I actually put this on backwards. You want the flat side on the front, but that's okay. I can also add her name to the other side as well, which I might go ahead and do, but I also didn't press hard enough. You can see how there's a gap there. So I'm going to grab my pliers again, make sure that key ring is out of the way, and just clamp down one more time. So I just went ahead and added her name to the other side as well. And so now it's two-sided, and we can go ahead and put our cute little apple right onto the keychain. And now we have a great little gift to give to a teacher for a Teacher Appreciation Day or the end of the year or Christmas. I also made a few other ones here. You can do them in any color you want. You can even get patterned faux leather and make some really fun keychains as well with that. And then here is the chunky glitter one that I made as well. I hope you enjoyed today's project. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them down below in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Join me over on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and I hope to see you on more crafting adventures.